Alrighty, folks. One of the things I love about interacting with other amazing investors like Coach Carson is we interact with our audience. And Chad got a comment on one of his videos that he wanted to share with me that we would go ahead and talk about. So, Chad, thank you for being here every Tuesday. What was the question?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I love the comments. This was an interview I was doing with John Schaub, who's been a mentor of
Ooh,
mine, and he wrote a
yeah.
book called "Building Wealth One House at a Time." And in my interview, among other things, we talked about how he really likes managing single-family houses. He's done hotels, he's done multifamilies, he's done land. He comes back to single-family primarily because it's made him a lot of money for the amount of time he puts into it. And he was making the point that he'd rather have 10 single family houses than have 10 apartment units, for example.
Okay. Yep.
And so the comment was kind of pushing back on that, say, hey, I own single family, I own multifamily. How is it, for example, that four single family houses are easier to manage than, for, say, a fourplex? Because a fourplex has one roof, it has, one mortgage payment you have to make, it has, one of those set of bills you have to pay for insurance, for example. Where a single family house, you have multiples of all those. So I thought it'd be fun to unpack that, Michael, because I know you and I, this is a topic we kind of work on ourselves personally and help people
Yeah.
with. So maybe I'll give a little bit of my take, and then we can go back and forth on it if that's okay with you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'd love to hear how you come down on this one four. Let's think about this, right? One tenplex, one fourplex, or call it five single family homes to kind of try to even it out.
Yeah, there we
Where
go.
do you come down on all of that?
Yeah, so I own all of the. I own single family. I own a few fourplexes, and I own a tenplex as well. And I think there's pluses and minuses, but I'm gonna unpack like the amount of money I spend or the amount of time I spend on my rentals. The most time I spend, if I were having to do everything myself, would be on managing the tenants themselves. And when I thought about this question, I broke it down into like there's things you have to manage, like you have to pay your bills, you have to do bookkeeping. That's kind of one umbrella of things you do. You have to do maintenance and just keeping your properties up. So yeah, if you have four roofs, that's more over the long run. That's more than one roof you have on a fourplex. But when I looked at my own time, the large majority of the time that somebody has to spend managing my properties is in the turnover of tenants. Every time a tenant moves out, somebody's got to lease the property, somebody's got to manage somebody to fix it up and turn it over, somebody's got to sit down with someone and do a lease or do it virtually. You've got to do all the paperwork. So the large majority of the time of property management, for me at least, and I have property managers doing this mainly for me now, but is on that leasing, turnover, collections, everything having to do with the tenant. So I go back to I think to support what John says. If I have five single family houses, the amount of time I have to spend on a tenant, if they stay for 5 or 10 years, especially in a single family house, is just minuscule compared to what I have to spend. For example, my fourplexes, my tenplex, because I have people turning over every year or two in those apartments. And I think that's the main difference. Is like it's not that it's not true that financially it is pretty efficient to have a fourplex or a tenplex, because it is nice to have four tenants paying for one roof. That's there's some efficiency there. And maybe it's easier to scale if you're trying to be like a syndicator and go big. Managing 500 apartment units that are only one or two places. That's pretty efficient when you scale and have property managers. But for the small and mighty investor who just wants to do this part time and have an hour of your time or 4 hours of your time a month, single family to me is still the easiest
Oh,
management path to do that.
yeah. I mean, it's really funny, right? This was actually a saying that I believed, right? So my journey, what I wrote about in One Rental at a Time, was I went from 8 houses, single family homes, to 80 units, all fourplexes and above. And initially, a lot of the logic was, okay, you're going to have, like one roof on the tenplex versus, two roofs or whatever. So, I a lot of times when I get this question, it's actually from folks that don't own anything. It's people that have heard others talk about it. It's people that logically think, oh, I have one roof versus four. Well, folks, if you're doing it right, you're setting aside money for capital expenditures every month. So, yeah, you may have to call four contractors and get 8 quotes for four roofs, but you're setting aside reserves for that the whole time. So, you know, Stop it with that logic. It's
Yeah,
just simply not true.
it's every 30 years. So you replace a roof
Yeah.
once every 30 years. That, I mean, although that is true, that's a very small period of time of the entire time you own this property.
Yeah. When I hear people ask this question, it's from people that understand it intuitively or logically, but have never owned them. It's not even close.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done the math. I went back on, and my average tenure on a house is 8+ years. My average on a unit, and a unit could be a fourplex or one of my 10plex or my 20plex, is just over 2 years. And trust me when I say, as a landlord, it is turnovers that crush you. And then if you look at to your point, property manager's time commitment, hassle factor, it's not even close. I have dozens of single family homes that on average we hear from twice a year. Our units are sometimes twice a week. So when I hear people like this, and I get the comment all the time, it's people who are in the game, looking at it logically, believing bigger is better because some big social guru said it was. But if you're trying to be the small and mighty investor, you're trying to be the full-time employee who gets to 4 units, trust me when I say it is far easier to have 4 single family homes. It's not even close. I mean, it's just not even close.
Yeah, and that's important at the end of the day because we're all putting a portfolio together. And I like all of these asset classes, by the way, for different reasons. But
Yeah. I
if
own
you're
them
gonna put
all.
it, I own them all. I own them all. But it does take me more work to manage the manager on the apartments as well. And at the end of the day, we're doing this for lifestyle. Most of us, I lived in Spain for a year. I've lived in Ecuador for a year and a half, and
Nice.
the amount of peace of mind I had on my single family houses versus the peace of mind I had on the apartments, it's just not even close. Like it's one, but all that being said, it was worth it for me. And this is where you have to kind of judge on your own portfolio. Like in 2017, when I lived in Ecuador with my family, I was kind of the first levels of financial independence. I just kind of broken free, and it was important to me. I needed the cash flow, like first and foremost. And I was willing to spend a little bit extra hassle, a little bit extra
Oh
time,
yeah.
but over the long run, if you just got to measure how much time and hassle you're willing to put into it. And John Schaub to me has been kind of the voice advocating for that for the years, and I love it because I think it kind of pushes back against a lot of the go big. You should own thousands of apartment units, and there's this assumption that I think it comes from Wall Street. I think it comes from Silicon Valley, that scaling and efficiency and being able to go big on all this stuff is the best or is the right way to do it. Whereas you and I both believe that we're better off having a lot of smaller investors with 5 or 10 or 4 houses. They take care of them more, they manage them better. And so it's just a different approach. You have to think about who you're getting your advice from and who you're trying to model, who you're trying to copy here in the business world.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the question was, what is easier? It's not close. I would agree with you. I'm financially free because of the multifamily. But again, that doesn't make it easy, right? The cash flow is better, leverage is better. Um, the other thing to talk about single family fourplexes and 10plex that a lot of people miss is if you need to get out, it is far easier to sell a single family home because you have multiple
Yeah.
buyers than a portfolio of 4, 10, and 20 units. It's the markets can lock up, LTVs can change, but there's always going to be single family folks. So again, if you're the small and mighty investor, if you're a one rental at a time fan, I believe life changes at 4 units. Nothing wrong with 4 single family homes, in my opinion.
Yeah, agree. Yeah, and the final piece I'll say about to your point is when you have 5 single family houses versus 1 10plex, for example, say the same amount of money, if you want to split those up, that's something I've had to do over the years. Is like, okay, I don't like one of these properties, I'm going to sell that one. You have to sell everything with a 10 unit. Like that's just all or nothing. Whereas
Yeah.
it's really nice. I compare it to like a chessboard. When you have these little bitty chess pieces and you want to like move them around, you want to split them up, you want to do different things. It's like these interchangeable parts that you have in a small and mighty portfolio compared to one big efficient thing that has to sell to an investor versus selling to owner occupants. And I've sold to my tenants a lot of times. And that's been one of the best. I didn't have it. It wasn't vacant. I got top dollar, didn't have to sell through a real estate agent. So there's just lots of options when it comes to exiting your portfolio with single family.
Amazing, Coach Carson. Where can people find you?
Search for Coach Carson. I'm on YouTube as well. You can check me out. I have a new podcast episode every Monday morning, and I would love
Yes.
to connect with you.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.